Excellent. Okay, so let's get started then, folks. And a really big welcome to this. A really big welcome to this digestive wellness fermenting workshop. And we are going to be spending about an hour and a half together this morning. Before we get started into making the ferments, I really wanted to spend a few minutes talking about why we should be incorporating fermented food into our diets on a regular basis. And so the first segment of this workshop is going to be about the why. And I feel that's really, really important and crucial. I'm just going to mute everybody actually just for this piece here, just because I can hear a little bit of interference. So I still can. If you're not muted, would you mind just muting yourself? Because I can only see a couple of people. Hello, Marina. Good morning. Good to see you. Hello. Good morning.
Morning.
Great. Okay. So back to the workshop then. This is going to be an interactive session. It's not just going to be about me talking, but it is going to be about you making fermented foods, because I really feel that they are so essential for digestive health and well-being. And just a little bit about me, for those of you who don't know me, I am a nutritional therapist and also a coach. And I've worked with lots of people with digestive stress over 10 years. And I absolutely know without a shadow of a doubt that once you incorporate some fermented foods into the diet, it can have a really big difference and make a really big difference to people. So it's something that I am really passionate about. And it's one of my hobbies that I really would like to share with you across the workshop today. So let's just go on to the next slide then. So just some official bits, and to get these out of the way, I am going to be recording the session. So thank you all very much for agreeing to that. And this is for my development and to allow me to enhance the experience for future participants. So thank you very much. And it's also for GDPR that I'm asking you for your permission. And we are going to use the chat box, but I'm also going to ask you to unmute yourselves throughout today and contribute, because I know that if you do that, you'll be sharing your experiences with me. And I think that plays such a great part of any workshop, let alone this interactive one. I have prepared a handout for you for the end of the workshop, but I'm a big note taker. So for me, one of the ways I like to learn is to take notes. So if that's you, in between mashing up your sauerkraut, feel free to take a few notes as well. But as I say, I have prepared a handout for you as well. And I would ask that you share and contribute in the chat box as and when those moments occur. Timing wise will be about an hour and a half. So at 12:30, that's when I'm hoping, thereabouts, that we'll wrap the workshop up. And you're more than welcome to stay a few minutes extra if you would like to talk to me about anything else, but that's kind of the official end. And if you need to leave before that, well, absolutely, just go ahead. There's nothing holding you here. And then just one other thing to mention is we'll have a very brief, like 2-minute or 3-minute break. If anybody needs to nip off to the loo or get a glass of water or something. And I think that's about 11:45, ready to get back hands-on at 11:50 with our ferments. Okay, so let's talk about why I think it's a really good idea to eat fermented food, and not just fermented food, but also other foods that feed our gut bacteria as well. And the journey that we're going to go through this morning is very much about following this structure here. I want to talk to you about what the gut microbiome actually is. So by gut microbiome, I mean our gut bacteria and how that impacts our health. And it has a significant role to play in well-being, not just in our digestive health, but also our mental health too. And I really want you to give yours a boost. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We're going to talk about prebiotic foods as well as probiotic food, which is fermented food. And ultimately, I would really like to develop your confidence, your skill, and your knowledge in how you can go about fermenting your own foods going forward, because it really is quite easy and something that's been happening for many a moon, for many, many centuries. And I think we've just kind of forgotten those skills. It really is quite easy, and there's nothing stopping you from getting this, doing this yourself. We are going to make 2 jars of sauerkraut and 1 pickled ginger. And they're both, everything there is very tasty, and I think that you'll really enjoy those. But ultimately, I would really like this workshop to inspire you to then go away and look up, make more fermented foods yourself, or maybe post some things that you've created to me that you've made. And I know one or two of you really are fermenting queens already, so I'm sure there are some things that you can share with me. So that's our roadmap for today and what we're going to be covering. And I just want to start off with picking up on one of the things that I said earlier on about implementing fermented food can have a profound effect on your gut, without a shadow of a doubt. And we can eat for our gut health. And I'll give you some personal experience. A couple of years ago, I was suffering quite badly with stomach problems, like IBS type problems. And for me, this is typical. So last, I would say probably 20 years of my life of being IBS-y type symptoms. But anyway, 2 years ago, they were quite bad. I was on holiday, and I think perhaps I got some sort of food poisoning or something like that. And as a result, I had pain in every single joint in my body, and that lasted for a few months. And it was only until I started to incorporate fermented foods on a regular basis that I started to notice a difference. And I find that really, really quite encouraging. So rather than, popping a probiotic, which we buy, from Holland and Barrett or from the chemist, we can actually just see some significant differences through eating some specific type foods. And it really has made a massive difference. And I'll just share a quick funny story with you. I've had lots of explosions, but none of them come from my rear end anymore. So that's really quite encouraging. And I would love for you to be able to feel some of these differences as well. So I would really like to understand what you've tried yourselves. But before we get into that, fermented food, as I've mentioned, has been around for many, many years. And it was a way of preserving food, because before refrigeration, how did we preserve food? It was usually with salt and other mechanisms that allowed that food to remain healthy through the winter months. And so some foods like sauerkraut would be considered peasant foods, which is quite interesting. And different cultures have different foods that are part of their traditions. So for example, wine and beer and cider and sake, all from different parts of the world, are a result of fermenting and doing that through usually bacteria and yeast to help cook the food. And then other things that you probably eat more on a regular basis would be yogurt, particularly if it's a live yogurt, full fat live yogurt, or cheese or a sourdough, corned beef and hams. And I didn't know actually that chocolate is also fermented. And so when I was doing the research to put this workshop together and thinking about what are some, regular foods that we eat on a basis that would fall part of our maybe day to day, chocolate came up, and so does coffee actually, which is quite interesting. So I think that there are probably foods that you eat on a regular basis that you didn't know were fermented that actually are. And then we get into the big guys, the ones that really do make a difference and deliver a great big impact to the gut. And that would be kefir, kombucha, so those are both drinks. And then we've got kimchi and sauerkraut from different parts of the world, flavored with different things, but both made with cabbage or different types of cabbage. Miso is really interesting. So this is fermented soya, and perhaps if you go to Itsu or if you eat Japanese or Chinese, you might be tucking into some miso soup. That's a great snack to have in the fridge, by the way, because you can just have that instead of maybe tucking into something that you shouldn't. And then we get into some really sort of like odd tasting ones like tempeh and natto, which are not everybody's cup of tea at all, but I think they all become quite an acquired taste as our taste progresses. So folks, I would really love to know, and you can do this in the chat box to maybe to begin with, but please tell me, what kinds of fermented foods have you tried, and what do you like, what do you hate, and which ones are sort of like full part of your diet on a regular basis? I would really love to know that. And if you do make any yourself, then this is, I think this would all be very interested to find out too. So do let me know. You can just type that, or if you want, you can unmute yourself. Might be easier actually if you're on a mobile or something, just to unmute. So what fermented foods have you tried?
Hi, Ali.
Hey, oh, Marion, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. So I do kefir water, which I love and Vanessa doesn't like.
Right.
I've also got a lovely ginger bug going, which I'm really excited to get using for sodas and stuff. It's the first time doing that one.
That's really interesting. So how did you start doing it, Marion? What I don't know what a ginger bug is, so talk us through it.
I found it on the internet, and it's basically similar to kefir water. So it's ginger sliced up really, really fine, really little tiny bits, and then sugar, and then you feed it for several days, and it just ferments, and the bacteria is on the outside of the ginger.
That's so interesting. Well, I would love to try that. Do you think it will be like a Jamaican ginger beer that you can get from the shop? Probably be better.
It should be nicer than that.
I think so. Well, I'm looking forward to drinking that. And would you put it in a bottle? Are you going to put it into a bottle like this?
Very similar to that, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll get more carbonation.
So it's a bit like sourdough. So when you use a couple of tablespoons of it, you then refeed it.
Yeah.
So you've got the bug going all the time, and then you can drink your drink.
That's wonderful. Marion, I think I'd like to try some of that. Please save me some so I can kickstart my own.
Of course, you're more than welcome.
That sounds amazing. Brilliant. Thank you so much. And just to answer a couple of questions, you know, with pickles are also a type of ferment, yes. And as Marion said, there's bacteria that exists naturally on the outside of fruit and vegetables, and we are taking benefit from that. And it's called lactofermentation. So the lactic acid that's on the outside of fruits and vegetables is what we're getting hold of to make our fermented food. And pickles are also done that way, but they're more difficult because they contain more sugar, and they can get quite soggy. I haven't made pickles myself, but I know that they are slightly more challenging than, say, a sauerkraut. So beer, wine, yogurt, cheese and corned beef, Sam, that's great. Yeah, and you could even make your own corned beef. What? You know, it is possible to do that. Sauerkraut, wine, cider, yogurt and sourdough. And sourdough is really delicious, isn't it? If you want to buy a starter for that and make your own sourdough, or ask your friends, they may have one in the fridge, which is a really great way of getting started. We had one here that we sort of like made some bread with over a couple of months ago over lockdown. Miso soup, kimchi, chocolate, coffee. Yeah, absolutely, Anita. I do most of those. Yeah, brilliant. And oh, that's really wonderful, folks. So thank you all so much for telling me what you've been getting up to there. And if you haven't done anything yet, you know, we're going to be making something today, and I think it's a great starting point, particularly the drinks. So doing kefir, water kefir, is very easy, and I'm going to show you guys how to do this. That's a great starting point, and you can't really go wrong. And it's so tasty. It's much more tasty than what you can buy in the shop, and it will have so many more benefits. So I really want to talk about the why here then, and why you should be including fermented foods in your diet on a regular basis. And really it comes back to the microbiome, which is our gut bacteria. Everybody's gut microbiome is completely different to the next person, and it's influenced by many, many things. And so I've got a list here of some of the different strains that you may have heard of, particularly if you've taken a probiotic, so a lactobacillus or an acidophilus, or a lactobacillus rhamnosus, or a bifidobacterium. These are all friendly and good bacteria. And we have over 100 trillion amount of bacteria in our gut, and it weighs around 2 kilos. It's quite a significant amount. We have the symbiotic relationship, which means they do us favors and we let them live in our gut as a result. And actually we have so many bacteria that they outnumber us about 10 to 1. So we are more bacteria than we are body cells, which is quite interesting. Now there are Klebsiella, E. coli and Aeromanos are not good bacteria to have in the gut. And actually the Aeromanos one is also considered with traveller's diarrhea. And these are the things, these are the bacteria that start to crowd out the good guys and cause us problems. So IBS type problems or inflammation and yeast overgrowth and things like that when we have the wrong type of bacteria in our gut. And actually those three there, Klebsiella E. coli and the Aeromonas, they also contribute to diarrhea and constipation. And so what I'm hoping through showing you guys how to ferment your own food is that we start to crowd these guys out so that they can't be abundant in the guts, that we can have normal bowel movements. Interestingly, the microbiome is shaped from our very early age, really. When we're born, we have a sterile gut. Well, when we're in the mummy's tummy, we have a sterile gut. But as soon as we're born, that we then start to be inoculated with our first gut bacteria. And it is influenced by how you are born, so the delivery, as well as whether you were breastfed, and your mother's and father's microbiome also. So everything in the surrounding environment will influence that child's microbiome. And that's really quite key, because cesarean born babies have a different microbiome than vaginally born babies. Quite fascinating, and equally for breastfed. But by the age of 3, the population in the gut is usually the same amount as you'd have as an adult. But there are things that can influence it. And I found these studies that I thought were really quite fascinating. When they looked at what was in the microbiome, it showed differences than a normal healthy cohort. And I find that quite fascinating, because if you can change that, you potentially could then reduce or eliminate those symptoms. And then also with Alzheimer's studies, where the gut microbiome is showing a different type of bacteria. And so they know that through the gut-brain axis, so our gut influences our brain and our brain also influences our gut, that whether you have stress in your life or you are feeling a particular way, perhaps emotionally drained or depressed, that potentially could be coming from the gut as well. And there are some studies showing that. So this gut-brain axis is quite significant. But I wanted to just sort of like put some emphasis here on stress that can have a really big difference to how your gut to microbiome actually is. Because when we're stressed, we start to deplete it. Stress isn't good for anything to do with the digestive system, but particularly the gut microbiome. And also what we feed ourselves. So if your diet is very limited and you're eating, I don't know, mostly an animal type diet, so just meat and little veg, then the variety of bacteria that you have in your gut will be compromised for sure. So plant eaters and vegetarians and vegans would have a higher amount of gut bacteria than meat eaters. So we need variety. And I'm going to come on to that shortly. And then so you might think, well, okay, all well and good, Ali, but what are these guys doing for us? And they have such significant jobs, and we could not live without them. So there's this theory, isn't there, that we're too clean. And when we start wiping everything down and using antibacterial sprays left and right, we are depleting to a degree some of that bacteria. So we can be too clean, and that can cause problems. So these are the jobs that these guys do. They break down foods that we can't break down otherwise. So they find that as a food source for them. And as a byproduct of breaking down this undigestible food, they can make vitamins. So we need vitamins, so we want more of those. They also make brain chemicals like serotonin, the happy hormone, makes us feel good and well. And then one of the most important jobs I think they have is they help to make something called a short chain fatty acid, which is a metabolite that helps to keep the gut lining nice and healthy, and your gut lining will strong. And that has huge implications then for our immunity, because if things are getting through the gut wall, then that sparks the immune system and we start to get autoimmune conditions. So these short chain fatty acids like butyrate are really quite key and important. And our immune system is also regulated by our bacteria, because these guys are like, it's like going to a really busy concert and there would be like 100,000 people in the audience. That would be our gut microbiome. And then the security guys are on the outside keeping everything in order. So when there's something new comes in, if there's trouble, starting in amongst that 100,000 people, the security guards are right outside on the outside. They can't get in. But the gut microbiome alert the security as to where the problem is, and they start to crowd it out. And that's why we need more of the bifidobacterium or the lactobacillus. We need those guys in place to do those jobs. So I spoke about prebiotic foods just briefly at the start. So, you know, what are they? Well, there are foods that we can eat, and you probably do eat these. So do be encouraged that, these are falling part of your day-to-day diet, because they are things like vegetables and fruits, beans and pulses. And so what they're doing is they're feeding the existing microbiome. So they are food, a direct food source. But there are some that can be more beneficial than others. And I don't know if you guys have ever eaten Jerusalem artichokes, but they are, if they're going to make you gassy, then if there's a food that's going to make you gassy, I think it would definitely be these guys. And it's because they have something in them called inulin. And inulin is a prebiotic, and it is a potent source of feeding the gut microbiome. Jerusalem artichokes are the top of the tree for that. So I don't know if anybody's that. Maybe you could put something in the chat box and let me know whether you've had issues with Jerusalem artichokes. I know I have. And in fact, when I was thinking about that, I thought I must try and eat some now to see whether or not they would have a difference now that my gut is kind of like in a good shape. Would I get bloating from eating them? I don't know. Anyway, garlic, onions, and asparagus, green bananas. Now, the reason that green bananas are better than yellow bananas is because we would absorb the sugar higher up the digestive tract. But with green bananas, it's actually like a resistant starch, a resistant fiber. So it makes its way down the intestine into the area where the gut microbiome can then eat it. And that's a good thing, because that's what we want. And then other things that are really great for the digestive system, but also feeding our gut, of course, apples, papaya, and lots of different types of vegetables, but including pulses. Just make sure they're cooked really, really well. And or use tinned as well. Something else that you can use, which is a great form of resistant starch. So again, what goes down into the digestive tract and isn't absorbed higher up, it goes and ends up into the low down in the colon, would be cooked and then called potato, or cooked and then called rice. And I remember watching a webinar a couple of years ago on a chat talking about cultures that back in the day would have made big amounts of rice in the morning for the family to eat throughout the day. But it's interesting that it's then cooled down and then eaten. It isn't eaten straight away. And yet here we are, for quickness generally, we might make a quick boiled rice and eat it straight away. But of course, as I've explained before, white rice is quite, it doesn't have any of the husk on the outside, so there's no fiber, and it acts like a quick release of sugar to the blood sugar, so that spikes. But
sorry, Ali, can I just ask a quick question? When you say cooked and cooled potatoes, do you mean like the normal white potatoes, or do you mean sweet potatoes?
Normal white.
Oh, the normal white. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because what it can do is, as I said, it's resistant starch. It's cooked and then cooled, and then you would eat that, and it would feed your gut microbiome. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So, folks, these are all ideas of prebiotic foods, and I bet that you eat one or two of these, particularly oats. If you do overnight oats, this is a great way of including your prebiotic food into your diet, which is also good. And then let's talk about probiotic foods. So I've mentioned these already, and the big guns, you know, if you were sort of like to get the most amount of money for or the most amount of microbes in your food, it would be through eating and consuming these guys here. So kefir and kombucha, kefir particularly. So there are two types of kefir. There's a milk one and there is a water one. So in this house, I make water kefir, but I have in the past made milk also. When I researched the amount of bacteria and yeast that's in milk kefir, it does outweigh what's in the water one. So if you were looking to sort of like get the most for your money, then a milk kefir would be better. But remember that not everybody can tolerate milk. So this might be something that you choose to try out and see whether it causes you any symptoms. And I've got a study actually in a second that I'm going to share with you. So kombucha is also a fermented drink. It's fermented tea, and because the bacteria and the yeast are eating the polyphenol, so it's a compound that's found in the tea, the bacteria are eating those, it's actually very good for us. Kimchi and sauerkraut I've mentioned already are types of cabbages, but these are really going to deliver quite a lot for us in our guts. And some people really like the flavour. I know that they are an acquired taste, so if you've never eaten any fermented food before, then you might find that you want to just start quite slowly and then build up. But what we eat does influence our gut bacteria anyway. So there is a study, if anybody's interested, I could share it with you, that shows what we eat, and the microbes are favour that. They want you to eat more of it. So they send messages up to the brain to get you to eat more of that particular food, because they're thinking about their own survival. It's quite fascinating. So, okay, yeah, I spoke about this study. Michael Mosley is a medical doctor, usually see him on Channel 4, but he's written a couple of books about diabetes and how to reverse it. I find him really fascinating, because what he does is he looks at the diet and different types of diet, which ones are the best ones to really follow for good health. But he did a study with a number of volunteers about a probiotic drink. And what he meant by that was most likely Yakult. He didn't name it, but I'm pretty much think it was the Yakult. So the thing that you can buy in the shops, for, you know, it's pretty inexpensive, but they reckon that it delivers a certain amount of good bacteria to your gut. So there was a prebiotic drink, then the foods I just mentioned and eating those, or having a milk kefir drink, so fermented milk. And what the study actually found was that with the probiotic drink, so drinking the Yakult on a regular basis every day, didn't give you any significant changes. And they analysed this through stool samples and urine analysis. Quite interesting. But the prebiotic food did actually deliver some differences to the existing gut bacteria. And the gut bacteria that they found was actually very beneficial to some other studies that were showing high levels of inulin. So remember I said Jerusalem artichokes and other vegetables had high levels of inulin. Well, this is because it helps us to build these our gut microbiome. And then the one that had the biggest impact was the fermented milk kefir drink. And this had the biggest effect on the study of all three. So if you were to do two of these things, so the prebiotic, the prebiotic foods plus taking fermented drinks or eating fermented food, you really are going to be covering all angles, and it will make a difference to your digestive health. So folks, I want to just sort of like summarize what we've spoken about here, because I'm sure that you might have some questions. So our gut bacteria, they have lots of jobs. Remember, they break down undigestible fiber, and as a result of that, they create lots of different things that help to keep us healthy: vitamins, brain chemicals, and also metabolites that help to keep the gut lining strong and healthy. And we need that in place. We've spoken about prebiotic and probiotic food, and that we need to have a varied diet in order to get the most benefit from our food. And all of these absolutely influence our digestive health. So if you want to unmute yourself and ask me any questions, I would be pleased to answer them. You're all in stunned silence. Well, that's fine. If you haven't got any questions, hopefully it's all been clear. I think we should just move on then. And what time are we at? So we are 11:36. So we are in good time. I think maybe we could just carry on actually, rather than have a quick break, because I think that you're all good. If anybody needs to nip off to the loo, do you? Let me know quickly. If not, I think we should just move on to the interactive part. Good. Let's move on to the interactive part then. Excellent. So I am just going to stop sharing my screen for a moment. Perfect. Now I can see you all. Excellent. So folks, what I thought would be really nice, it would be amazing if you were all amongst my kitchen and helping me, you know, put this workshop together by including your great personalities around my kitchen table. But that's not going to happen, is it, with COVID? So I think it would be really nice if you, all throughout this, ask questions, maybe unmute yourselves and, you know, talk about what's happening, what's going on with your ferments as we go, because I think that will make it much more interactive. And I'm really sorry, I don't know if Sandra's on. I'm really sorry about Sandra's finger. And when I sent you the text yesterday about just chopping your vegetables in advance, it was because I was on a, well, one, I just thought it was a good use of time, but I was on a course myself a couple of years ago where somebody cut their finger really badly and she couldn't then do anything for the rest of this workshop. So I had to help her chop stuff and she just had to sit and listen. So that's why, you know, you've got to be really careful of knives, haven't we? Right. Okay, so you should have your cabbage, correct? Somewhere? Great stuff. Okay, so I just want to talk about this before we get started. The reason that I want you to shred it as small as possible is because we're going to start massaging it in a minute. And if you have, if you've left large pieces of cabbage, it's very difficult for the salt to break down the cellulose wall. And that's what we're hoping to do. The salt is going to bring out the moisture from the cabbage. Now, in the recipe, I said to you that you could have between 15 and 20 grams of salt. And this is going to be down to your personal preference. If you follow an American fermented food recipe, they'll most likely say it will be a little bit more salt. But in the UK, kind of like a little bit less, don't we? So anything between 1.5% and 2% of the weight of your vegetables is a good place. So that's why I've said 15 to 20 grams. So folks, can I get you then to just put your salt on top of your, in fact, I'm going to wash my hands because I think they're clean. So clean hands are really important because what happens, folks, if you start to introduce bacteria, i.e. bad ones, we're going to eat that. So everybody just wash your hands for a second. We can all be singing happy birthday. Have we washed our hands enough? That's the question. And Marion, you might have something to say about this, even with using gloves, which I have here. When you use gloves, you still have to have clean hands. So, right. And what we want to do is we want to put it everywhere in your cabbage. You know, don't just layer it on the top. Put it wherever you can, all amongst the layers, and give it
bowl at the moment.
Marina, say that again.
Are we working with one bowl or should we be splitting it between two? Just one bowl?
Let's do one bowl because it will be easier to do it in one bowl. And what you're going to do is you're going to sort of like start to massage the salt into the cabbage. That's what we want to do.
Annie?
Yes.
So, sorry, I've put sort of double the cabbage that you've got. So how much salt am I putting in?
Have you got a set of scales there?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you weigh it?
See, the bowl is
you have the bowl. So
yeah. Let me swap it. I'll swap it into another bowl. Hold on.
Oh, I was just going to say, otherwise we could. Okay. Can you feel, guys, as you're massaging and squeezing, that you can get the moisture? Do you feel the moisture start to sort of like come out?
Yeah.
Okay, so how much have you got there? Whoever's good at maths might have to help me out here, Liam.
632.
How many?
632 grams.
Okay, so we need. So anybody who's good at maths, what is 2% of 632?
I think Lee's coming down.
That's 13?
13, thank you, whoever said that.
13 grams?
So I would put in yours.
Too much.
I would put in 12 grams. Yeah, 12.
Okay. Thank you.
Too much. Thank you.
Good. So how are we getting on massaging? It's a bit of a
Mary's
metaphor,
got a
isn't
side
it?
for me.
What we're hoping to do here is to squeeze
That's all right as well.
out. Marion, in your kitchen, have you got who's doing the hard work, or is it like sort of like both of you?
I'm
Vanessa has sore arms from the gym yesterday, so I'm doing work.
I'm supervising the work, Ali.
Absolutely.
You've always got to have a supervisor.
Is she doing a good job then, Vanessa?
She is. She's massaging well. It's kind of quite wet now. Very wet.
That's really
I've
good.
got juice at the bottom of the dish now.
Oh, excellent. Oh, Marion, you're ahead of us. Well, me. Has anybody else got that? It is hard work. So when I'm lifting mine up now and I'm squeezing it, I'm getting some, you know, the moisture out.
Yes, so am I. Yeah.
You guys are as well.
Which is easier than massaging dough, isn't it?
Ah, now that's interesting.
But not that I massage a lot of dough, but
Yeah, because
made the pasta a couple of times.
what I've done in the past to kind of like help this process, folks, if you want, is you put the salt on and give it a good sort of like mix, walk away, you know, and do another couple of jobs and then come back. It can make it slightly easier. The other thing that I sometimes do is I get my potato masher and I just give it a good old, you know, if you cut it fat and
What are you doing there, Ali?
I've just got my potato masher and I'm just giving it a good old slam because it's
I'm good at that with potatoes. Oh, you can have a go at that. That's good.
helping I'm just helping the salt get into the wall and breaking it down.
It's breaking the walls down.
I have to have quite a lot of juice now.
Oh, that's excellent. Oh, that's really excellent. Yeah, perfect.
Like anger therapy.
I mean, Kashan, I have to say that's really, you've got a lot of cabbage there, so you just might have to just squeeze a little bit harder, but you're going to have more to eat, which is brilliant.
Yeah, I think I got the hugest cabbage ever.
I would have done it. I went to the shops yesterday and they were out, so I got the purple, and luckily we had one. It's not the freshest in the fridge.
I stopped, didn't I?
It's just, yeah, it's just another way of doing it, but if you don't want to put your hands in it. I see how it's gone down already. You were saying there's a lot of cabbage. I mean, there's still a lot of cabbage there.
Yeah, he actually gone quite a
I
lot.
have quite a lot of cabbage on my counter as well, actually.
I agree with you. It's kind of like going.
You need a very big bowl, don't you?
I think that it helps. You know, another thing that you can do, you raise a good point here, is if you've got a backup bowl, then you can just stick it in,
Yes.
you know, so
Yeah.
that's equally good.
No, I think she was
So just repeat a couple of things I said there while you're doing that. If you're using an American recipe, they tend to put more salt in. If you're using a UK one, something on the BBC, they usually put about 1%, maybe 1.5%. It's up to you. In the past, I've used all types of different salt. I've even used a black one, which it was a black Hawaiian salt. It was very salty, using 1%. So you've got to you find what works best for your taste, and whether you like it saltier or not, it's up to you. But what the salt is doing, by the way, is it's preventing other bacteria from taking over. So it plays an important role for two reasons. One, it breaks down the wall of the cabbage, allowing the water to come out, but also it's preventing, it's a preserver, so it's going to prevent bad bacteria from getting into our sauerkraut. And that's what we need. And just another thing to remind you about, this type of fermenting is called lacto-fermentation, so lacto-fermentation. And that's because on the outside of fruits and vegetables, there's a lactic acid bacteria. We're using that to make this sauerkraut. So these things exist everywhere. Good, okay. How are we getting on, folks? I think, has everybody got, or let me ask it a different way. Has anyone not got good amounts of liquid?
Oh, we've got a lot.
Great. That's your supervision, Vanessa.
Yeah, exactly, Ali. It's all my supervision here and was my smashing thing, but there's quite a lot of water here.
Did you guys all get jars? Are you using the kilner? Are you? Oh, excellent. So, perfect.
Yeah.
I had jars.
Yeah, we've got hundreds, but useful to have, and you can store anything in those. Because we're going to come to a point in a minute where we're making two different flavors of sauerkraut this morning. I thought that would be a great place for us to start. So at some point, when you feel that you've given it a really good massage, can you take half of your ingredients and put them into the other bowl? Just half and half, you know. And it's because we're going to do two different flavors here. So into one, we're going to add some fennel seeds. And into the other, we're going to make kind of like a kimchi tasting one. And it's not a proper kimchi in terms of, it's not a napa cabbage, you know, a Chinese cabbage, but it's definitely going to deliver some Korean type flavor. When you pick it up, when you're picking it up, are you getting that sort of like come out? Squeak. Yes, you are. Oh wow, I see. Okay, brilliant.
Yes, I'm doing good.
Excellent, excellent. Why are we using fennel? Really good, lovely herb to put into one bowl of your sauerkraut. Teaspoon. And so just give that a little stir in as well. Now, one of the reasons I really like fennel, well, there's lots of reasons, but it's fantastic for the gut. So it's called an antispasmodic. And what that means is it can settle the muscles that are in the gut down. So if you've got pain or bloating or constipation, adding fennel, whether that's tea or as we're doing here in a sauerkraut, is a really good idea. And do you know when you go and eat Indian food, have you seen sometimes they give you fennel seeds afterwards? Yeah, you know, they're usually coated in loads of sugar. Yeah. Fennel in certain foods that you have in an Indian restaurant. So a really excellent herb and addition to put in is fennel, and that's why this is in here. So we're going to get all of the great ingredients from the cabbage. And we're also going to get fantastic ingredients from this fennel. So this is a really calming and medicinal sauerkraut.
Am I using more fennel because I've got more cabbage?
No, I would put in 1 teaspoon. It's fine.
Teaspoon? Oh my god, I put a tablespoon.
Oh, it doesn't.
It's good enough.
Just go for it.
No, we're going for it.
Okay. But if you if you taste it now, I mean, what do you think? It's absolutely delicious.
No, I can smell it. It smells lovely.
You taste it.
I mean, I might add a few more fennel seeds. That's delicious.
It is.
Great.
That's nice. A little bit.
It's all right.
Very
Yeah,
nice. Okay.
Like fennel seeds.
Great. So the good news is, folks, that what we can start doing now is we can start putting in our sauerkraut into our jar. Okay, so take a spatula, that's what I find works the best. And then we're going to use a potato masher or your fist, like adding that in. So
Sure.
No, you won't get it in the middle. You
Oh,
want to
no,
make sure
I'll
you get
be
it.
speaking.
Yeah.
Sean, I also read about fennel seed being really good for breastfeeding women.
Really?
Yeah.
What does it do?
It helps milk production.
Loads of those little things, like they make lactation cookies, and I think licorice is a flavor that's in there, so it might come from fennel. Yeah.
But I wonder if it is fennel, because it tastes similar, doesn't it, to licorice?
You need to put a weight on the top, so you can use
plastic bags filled with salt water because you need to exclude the air.
That's a very good idea, what Marion just said. So before I go on to it, just when you put it into your jar, and I've not made very much compared to my jar, you need to push this right down as much as you can to allow the liquid to come above your cabbage. So push it as hard as you can down. If you haven't got a potato masher, no worries, but just push your fist inside and squeeze it down. Can you see?
You do have a good spatula. You may not get that much liquid to come out, but it'll come out as the days go on.
Oh, as long as it's tight.
Yeah, as long as it's tight, that's the main thing.
What you want is your liquid to be higher than the cabbage.
Okay, we're nearly there.
So you're going to put, that's why I think the potato masher is
Yeah, our potato mash is quite big compared to the bowl, Ali.
She's doing a wonderful job squishing.
You've got the mega one for the mega potatoes.
Exactly. Oh, I think that's definitely
yeah, that's
over.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think mine has definitely achieved what I want it to.
Yeah.
How are you guys getting on pushing it down? And is the liquid over where it needs to be?
Yeah.
What we can do then, let's work on the second one. Leave that one on the side. Come back to your other one and then add all your other veg. So this one got, you know, we said we've got the apple.
Oh, everything else, Ali.
Yeah, stick it all in. So this is going to be like a your ginger, your carrots, your apple, your spring onions, whatever you've got on your, whatever you decided.
Is all the ginger going into this one, Ali?
Okay then, Marina.
Is all the ginger going in? Or are we keeping some for the other?
Yeah, so we only had like a large piece of ginger for this, and then we've got our ginger for the other one.
The other one, okay.
And
then guys, we're doing the same thing. So we're mixing it up hand.
Something here? Oh, you're ready to change.
Just getting all of the squeezing as hard as you can.
Wait, it's very hard.
We'll have to clear up.
Oh yeah, I'll clear up. It's okay.
You need to lie on a Sunday morning when you can have all this stuff, start making stuff. Good. So just squeeze it, massage, squeeze, massage. So my hands are definitely getting really wet now from all this veg. Yours must be as well. Your second jar.
Sorry, Ali, quick question.
Are you using the red sauce thing?
Yes, good point, Marion. Good point. And Adam, is that what you were going to say?
No, I was going to say, sorry, how much ginger shall I put in?
Well, for me, I quite like ginger, so I've said a large piece.
Large piece. Okay, that's good.
So let's have a quick look what it is.
Oh, 1 tablespoon is big, right?
That's the big one. So if you like to get
Okay.
So I never get these spoons right, Ali. That's foreigners for you.
What's that? Say that again.
I never get the table and the teaspoon.
Oh, I see.
Bit of a difference.
Okay, so what do we need? If you have it, folks, fish sauce
Okay.
gives a really nice sort of like depth of flavour to your this is like a kimchi type flavour sauerkraut, so you can add that in. And then your flavour was either going to be sriracha,
Yeah.
which is this, or harder to find, but we have a really good Thai shop down the road, and it actually looks like tomato ketchup.
Oh, that's lovely. We've had that, but we didn't get that this time. We got, remember the thick sauce that we used to have?
So it's 2 tablespoons of this.
And it's 2 tablespoons of this into your mixture. And this is where you might want to wear your gloves, because for sensitive skin, if you've got any cuts on your hand, it could burn. So I leave it up to you if you've got some gloves.
Ali, how much paste did you say to put in?
Let's just check the recipe. So we've got 1 to 2 tablespoons. So if you like it really spicy, Sam, use 2 tablespoons.
Yeah.
So I've managed to get this pepper. So give it a good mix and make sure that,
What's the rice wine for, Ali? Is that the next one?
yeah, you don't need that yet. So let's recap our ingredients then. So we had the base sauerkraut, which was just cabbage and salt. And then we added all those vegetables. And then we just added a tablespoon of fish sauce and 1 to 2 tablespoons of chili paste.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
And that smells lovely, actually. I don't know if you guys are finding that smells really nice, like a really nice warm depth flavour.
Are we jarring, Ali?
I was just about to say that. I think that's a good idea. So when you're ready, put it into your jar, and
Oh my God.
hopefully it's not going to go all over your tables like it is mine.
Yeah.
So we've got much. This is where we need our 1 litre jar. Hopefully you've got enough space for yours. Great. And then that's where I find that the potato masher again just comes in really useful. Right down. And you'll most likely find now you've got quite a lot of liquid. Now as you push down, it's coming above your vegetables. Okay, good. Isn't it amazing how, you know, the cabbage that we started with is pretty much shrunk down to where it is now? And Kashana, I'm going to ask you, has it gone quite small now in your jar?
What, this one?
Yeah, from what you started with. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, me too. It's completely. I mean, I've used the wrong jar for this one, but I might combine.
Just re-jar it, Ali.
I'm going to re-jar that. You know, Marion, that I've got enough of them.
Oh yeah.
Enough jars in this house. Right, good. Okay, so push it right down. Get the liquid.
I
above
did
the
it
pan.
not quite so because that's the bigger neck on.
It's harder work.
Yeah, it's the bigger. Yeah.
Good, folks. So it's probably a good place to start putting it in your jars. Now, what we can always come back to this later on, okay? So squeeze it in, push it right down.
We'll need to go back and re-squish it as the end up come out. I've squished that.
First of all, you can buy stones, proper stones that will go on top of your fermented food to squeeze everything down and keep it beneath the liquid line. That's one option. Or you can take a plastic bag, fill it up with water and put it into the top. And that also acts as a way of deterring any nasty microbes to get in. But I think a leaf is a good idea. So put your leaf in and then just squeeze it down under the liquid as best you can.
Ali, I don't think I have as much liquid as I should have, you know.
Let's have a look at yours, Sam. Hold it onto the camera. Okay. And have you got a potato masher? Or
Yeah.
your fist?
Yeah.
When you push it down, can I just see how much liquid you get? So if you squeeze it in there, hold it to the camera. I know it's hard because you've got to hold the thing underneath. Oh, that looks good to me.
It's just.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leave it like that because you can always push it afterwards. So, folks, we've got our 2 sauerkrauts, correct? We've got the leaf on the top or the bag with the water. We're going to hold it underneath.
Sorry,
So
Ali.
here's one that I did nearly a fortnight ago.
And where's your liquid, Marion?
Well, it's there, but it isn't as much as we're going to get this time round.
But it's covered under the lip. Yes, I can see it. There you go.
Yeah, I have to keep pushing it down every day or so that it stays underneath.
This is a good point, because what you'll find when you're fermenting food is that you really do need something to hold it under the liquid until it fully ferments. So,
and I learned about the holding it down after I'd made that one. So.
Yeah, I know. We've all been there. It's a learning process.
It is.
It really is. Okay. So folks, what I recommend, I think we should just move on, is put them to the side. Excuse me. And we'll concentrate on the making the gari now. So I thought this would be a really nice thing to start with, because as I've mentioned already, ginger is a fantastic digestive. So it helps digestion, it helps motility, so to push things down your intestines, and good for things like constipation as well as nausea. So ginger is a really great thing. Now this does contain sugar, because the sugar is the preservative, and you can keep this in your fridge, and if you don't open it, it will last. It most likely last till about a month, 2 months, so then you can enjoy it. So let's look at how we're going to make this. So thank you all for doing this in advance. I mean, I don't know about you, but I find slicing ginger actually quite a challenge, because you need it to be thin, and you need a sharp knife or a mandolin, but that can be quite a lethal piece of equipment in the kitchen with fingers. And very handy, actually, Marion and Vanessa, if you've got somebody else to do the slicing for you, maybe. I don't know. Just delegate it out to somebody else, you know.
I think you worked really well, Ali.
I wish I had that in this house, Vanessa. Okay, so let's look at our recipe then. So what do we need to do? We need a little jar, and I have one here. So, you know, I'm not saying to keep all of your jars, but if there are one or two that you've got in your cupboards, that they are ever so handy and save you having to buy stuff. So this is the jar that we're going to use. And what you're going to do is just put your sliced ginger inside your jar, and push it.
All of it?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, all of it.
Oh, smells lovely. Mmm.
Does smell lovely. And when you buy ginger in the shops, it looks like it's been kicked around the floor for a couple of months, doesn't it? You know, it doesn't look the most appetizing of root. Try and find one that is nice and firm on the outside, it looks like a younger ginger, because if you're lucky, this will turn pink naturally. And when you eat gari or pickled ginger from sushi shops or itsu or something, it's usually pink, isn't it? But that's most likely colouring and isn't natural. But hopefully ours might change colour. It depends on how old it is. If it's
and also beware, it might also go bluey green, and that's to do with the things it's been growing in. There's nothing wrong with it.
That's very interesting, Marion. Have you had something go blue green?
No, I was reading.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because as you know, I eat a lot of ginger.
If you've used a young ginger and you get pink, you must know, because, well, take a picture of it. I'd be very, very interested to see. Alrighty then. So what we need to do here is we do need to use the cooker, because I need to heat up. I need to dissolve the sugar basically. So I'm going to take my sugar and my rice vinegar. So what we're going to do then, so in your saucepan, you're just going to add your rice vinegar. I want to get all of my money out of this actually, so I'm going to use my spatula. And the sugar.
What did you put in there first?
I don't think it really matters, but this is just the rice wine vinegar and the sugar.
So it's quite a small amount of rice wine.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah, 45 mil. I think I said 45 mil. Did I?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
You did.
And then you've also got 45 mils of water. Right. So when you've done that, folks, heat it up on your stove. You want to stir it until.
How much sugar, Ali?
Say again, Sam.
How much sugar?
Let me just check the recipe. So we had 30 grams of sugar.
Yeah.
We've got 45 mils of rice wine vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got 45 mils of water.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And another sort of like flavor enhancer to this is to add a little bit of salt. So a teaspoon of some salt, or if you want less salt, then just a little bit of salt. And then just keep that over and you know, your flame or your electric cooker for until it's dissolved. And then, can you see how easy this is to make? Because all we've done, I know it was laboursome to cut up the ginger, but there were just 4 ingredients that where we can just make our own and keep this in the fridge. And it's so tasty. And as I've said, it's going to deliver those digestive benefits when we eat it before meals or after meals if we're feeling pain or discomfort. This is a really great thing to have in your fridge all the time.
So Ali, just to recap, we had water, we had vinegar, we had sugar, and we had a little bit of salt.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Well, let me mute myself. Hold on a second.
I didn't say that, but and you should have now your liquid, and so this is your water, your rice wine vinegar, and your sugar, and your little bit of salt, and it should all the sugar should all have been dissolved now. I'm just going to add a little bit of salt myself. When you think about buying salt, good habit is to get into something that's going to give you more vitamins and minerals. So choose a sea salt or Himalayan salt, or any salt that basically isn't table salt. If you've got table salt at home, you know, use it up, but don't buy any more. Good. Okay. How are we getting on, folks? How are you getting on melting your... Adam, I can see you by the cooker. That's great. Marina, I can see that you are also heating things up. Sam, it looks like you've got a massive beard with your headphones underneath.
I think I've misplaced my sugar.
You can't find your sugar?
No, annoyingly. Oh.
Oh, that's because you're so good. You haven't got any sugar in the house.
Yeah.
Don't worry, because what you can do is you can add it afterwards. So your liquid that you've put together, if you just leave it on the side and your jar on the side, you can just add it later on. You go out to the shop, and all we're going to do, so simple. Once this is cooled down,
Yep.
put it into the jar. That's it.
Okay. How do you know when it's ready?
To be honest with you, it's kind of ready straight away. But the longer you leave it, well, leave it for a week and then just start tucking into it. If you're confident that your glass jar isn't going to break, you can pour that liquid in, but otherwise wait until it has cooled down, and then you can add it to your jar.
Hop into a coffee shop and get a couple of sachets rather than buy a whole bag.
Of sugar?
Yeah, sugar.
Yeah.
That's such a good idea. Well done, Marion. All right, Sam, you're going to take your weighing scales. You're going to get 30 grams, sorry, of sugar. So I think there's 4 grams, about 4.5 grams of sugar in a
sachet, yeah.
So there you go. Good. Okay, let's move this on then, folks. So you've got your liquid. Let's just leave it to cool down for a second. And I just want to show you two more things, and then I'm going to start to wrap this up. So I'm a big fermenting fan. In my kitchen along the side there, you can see probably some bottles behind me, and I just want to show you how easy it is to make something with water kefir. And if you want to up the ante, you can start thinking about making your own kombucha as well. So let me just grab a couple of things and show you. So you can see this is a made bottle of, what have I got on here? This is a kombucha, and I've added some different flavourings in it, but I've got quite a few bottles. There's about 12 bottles there that I've done, and this is how you do it. Water kefir grains look like that. And what they are basically yeast and bacteria, and they're called tabikos or tabikos. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but they're just little grains that eat the sugar that I would feed them. And as a byproduct of that, they make a carbonated drink that's really fizzy. And because they eat the sugar, I don't know how much sugar is left, but minimal, because it tastes a little bit vinegary. They eat the sugar and they give me a carbonated fizzy drink. And it's very, very easy to make. And I want to show you just briefly how you do that. So I would have made some liquid here of sugared water with my kefir grains in the bottom. And when I'm ready to take this liquid, I drain it. Now there's a really important thing that you have to do here, and that's that you must use plastic. If this was metal, it's going to damage my kefir grains, and I don't want that. These are my babies, and they grow and multiply, and I need to look after them. So I'm using plastic. If you use metal, you end up killing them. So when you're ready, you take the liquid out, you basically separate your grains. So my grains are in here, which I'm going to put back into my jar. With this liquid, I would then pour this into a bottle. Here it is. Here we go. So I pour this into my bottle up to about maybe 3/4 of the way. And then I'm going to add some flavouring. And that can be anything from an apple juice, a pineapple juice, or maybe just some rose, or it could be blueberries. And I think any flavour that you could possibly think of. Whoops, my laptop is falling down. Yeah, so any flavour that you could possibly think of, you could try out. And so I'll just show you a couple of ones that I've got in my stash. So I've got, this is a kombucha. This is a ginger and lemon. Very easy to make because all it is just pieces of ginger put into the bottle. My absolute favourite is rose. I really like this. This is really delicious. And all they are little tiny roses put into this water, basically, and left there for a couple of days. And in your handout, I've given you a really good recipe of making your own kefir bottle drinks, with where you can buy these little grains, because you do need to buy them from somewhere that's reasonably good. And I've given you a couple of resources for that. But what I do is, as you can see up there, I will keep, this is kind of like an ongoing brewing situation where I would brew every couple of days and drink these quite regularly. And the good thing about that is, do you remember in the early slide I was talking about lactobacillus, and that is one of the key strains of bacteria that's in these drinks. So we want it in, and that's a very easy way to do it. Now, very quickly, if you feel that you can nail water kefir, and it really is quite simple, a couple of you do it already, you can move on to the second ferment, which is a little bit harder, but it's called kombucha. And I have a huge one behind me, which I'll show you in a second. But if I just get one of my, these are my scobies. So these are basically yeasts and bacteria that make fermented tea, and they look absolutely horrendous. It took me a while to get around. Oh, Vanessa, I can see your face. Horrible. It's like a mouldy mushroom. But let me show you one. I'll get one out. And this is the thing. So our bacteria, we're using this bacteria to ferment our drink. So I've got a really big one here because
It's weird.
it's weird, isn't it? So it's called a SCOBY. It stands for symbiotic symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeasts. That's what it stands for. So there's bacteria and yeast in this. This brown stuff is all yeast. That's good. We want it. Ducks love it. So we want all of that. But I would say this is level 2 stuff because it's a little bit hard. It's more hard for sure, but it's delicious. And I think that you will get into it. The more that you do it, the more you kind of like them, I think, really. So I again have put some resources for you in the in hand where you can buy that from and where you can get it from, and some good recipes just to plan with. In the background, I don't know if you can see, this is, I will grab it in a second, but just about here, point to it, is my kombucha. I can't point to it, and it's enormous. So I'm doing like 5 litres actually, and I will brew that every few days. Give me some bottles. Let me just show it to you quickly. Right. So Kishan, I was thinking about Johnny, and I was thinking about him saying your countertop. He got to look at mine, right? So.
I actually want to take a screen grab and show him.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to do that for free.
Ali.
Yes.
Sorry, quick question about the World's Cafe grains. Are they reusable? Because I saw you put it back on the jar. So can I just carry on using them? How many times?
Forever.
Yeah. I've had these guys for 2 years, and I give them away all the time. So I've got another stash in the fridge. So these guys have babies, they have babies, and so on and so on. They grow and multiply. And if you look after them, then you can end up giving them away too.
Ours don't grow very much, and it doesn't get very fizzy.
Okay.
Not enough sugar.
Yeah, it could be that. So you check the recipe that I've sent you, but also the liquid that I've drained off. I'll show it to you again. So this liquid that I've drained, I could drink that now if I wanted to. But if I want to make it really fizzy, I need to bottle it in the right bottle. And you need a little bit more sugar, and that can come from the fruit, like berries, or it can come from pineapple juice. Makes a really fizzy one is pineapple juice.
So Ali, I use this bottle, which is a glass bottle with a lid. Is that why it's not going fizzy? Because it's too long?
Oh, it's a good question. Kishan has one similar to that.
Yeah, snap.
No, so watch, mine's fizzy. So it's just the sugar content. It's the sugar. So in the second ferment, you just need to put something more sugary in. So this one I've got apple juice in.
Yeah, this is apple juice.
Oh.
Why is yours pink, Kesha?
Yeah, why is yours pink?
Sorry, I'm curious.
I've got roses in it.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So the colour takes on the fruit that you're putting in it. So remember, the yeast and bacteria eat sugar. That's what they eat, right? And so if you, in your second ferment, so once you've bottled it and you've put in some pineapple juice or some apple, it will continue to ferment. Now, this is really important, so everybody listen to it. If you use a bottle like this, which is square, not round, this will explode.
Yeah.
And I know this because I've had 4 explode in this house. So this is the opposite to not having any gas, right? This one is going to really blow up.
Oh,
So there's a lot.
And also, Ali, just on the bottles as well. I've been using this vodka bottle, and it's got like a top on it.
Yeah.
And every day, it's just a vodka bottle, but it's got the right neck. But every day we keep hearing something bash, and we can't understand what's going on. And every morning I come and this thing is open. And while we were cooking, it exploded while we were doing this workshop. So don't use these. Make sure it's got a proper top. It just literally pops
So
off.
he's ready to drink. But Kashan makes a really good point. So we want the right bottles, and when you open it, which you should be doing when you first start to make water kefir, I'd really recommend opening your bottle to, it's called burping every day. So I haven't opened it. Whoa, did you hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never had one go like that.
So can you see all the bubbles?
Yeah.
Very fizzy.
Yeah.
Really busy, yeah.
You
Maybe
have to drink
look at the
some
recipe.
brush bottles.
Yeah. So that's what we want. We want it to be really fizzy and we want it to be really tasty. And this is the equivalent, well, it's not the equivalent at all. This is much better to drink this than is a bottle of Coke or, you know, lemonade or Fanta or whatever. So much, much better for us. And you have a recipe for that in your pack. Okay, so folks, let's circle back round and start wrapping up because it's moving on the time. Let's share my screen again. Okay, lovely. So we've made our own ferments. We've made 2 ferments, and we have these. These are going to continue to ferment at home. Make sure that your ferments are not left out in a sunny space. So just put them maybe in a dark cupboard or in a cupboard or just away from any sunlight. We don't want that to happen. Check it and just make sure that your liquid is above the vegetables. And if it isn't, push it down. That will happen across time, but just keep pushing them down. And after about between 3 and 5 days, put it in the fridge and keep it in the fridge. You put the lids on and put it in the fridge. Now, what that does is it means that it's going to stop your ferment from over fermenting, you know, and the more that it ferments, the more vinegary it becomes. So if you like a vinegary taste, you can leave it out for 5 days. But if you prefer that it has more of a mellow taste, more of a cabbage taste, let's say, less vinegary, then put it in the fridge after 3 days. But again, one of the benefits of fermenting your own food is that you can play around with flavors and textures. So you decide what you prefer, but do put it in the fridge. Don't leave it out too long. I think it tastes really quite sour if you do. Good, so we did that. Then we've got our pickled ginger, and actually now our liquid should be nice and cool, so there's no reason why you can't pour that in on the top. Just doesn't really smell of anything other than ginger, but it's so delicious. You will find that difficult not to eat that all in one go.
Does that mean to all cover the ginger, Abby?
Yes. Does it cover yours?
No.
Okay, so can you give it a push down, Kashan? Your ginger.
No, I think I've got too much ginger again.
Don't worry, that's brilliant. All you need to do is just maybe make double the quantity of liquid.
Okay.
So after this, just make more liquid because it's so delicious. I just think make more and then put it in your fridge.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, we want the ginger underneath the liquid there. Perfect.
My liquid's still slightly warm. Should I let it cool completely?
I think if it's warm, it'll be okay. The only reason I said not to put it in is because I would worry that the glass would crack.
Okay.
But I think now, you know what, Marina, I think you could probably go for it. Okay, so let's just summarize this, folks, and then I'm going to have you do just one more thing. Our microbiome, as we've discussed throughout today's workshop, absolutely matter, and we need to look after them. They make such a difference to our digestive health. We know that there are lots of good guys. There are over 100 trillion different amounts of bacteria in our gut. Some are good and some are not so good. And we want to crowd out the bad ones. So in a way, it's like doing a bit of weeding. We want to get rid of all of that nasty stuff in our nice laid out lawn. and replace it with good quality bacteria instead. And the way that we can do that, of course, is to take a probiotic, but we can also make our own probiotic food in the form of fermented vegetables. And our sauerkrauts that we've made today are a good example of that. So we've made 2 sauerkrauts, and we've made a pickled ginger called gari, which is a lovely digestive tonic. Ferment for about 3 to 5 days. Taste it. Do you like it? If you do, put it in the fridge. If you don't, you think, well, I could do it, take another day or 2 to ferment this, then leave it out. Do not double dip the spoon. Always use a fresh spoon when you go into your ferment, because you're transferring, you know, bacteria from your mouth or from the fork into the ferment. So don't do that. Always use a clean one. And this is really important, whether it's a kefir, which is the drink, or whether if it's some sauerkraut, start small and build up gradually, because your tummy may not be used to it. And so what we don't want is to have an effect of bloating. We want to take things slowly. We've seen the importance of why to introduce fermented food, but we don't want to have a massive party and bring too many mates, right? We're going to do things slowly. And we spoke about water kefir, and we've spoken about the kombuchas. So starting with water kefir, and I've given you a good resource for that, is a really nice idea, and you just need counter space and to store them. Good. Okay, so I think, does anybody have any questions or anything at this stage that they want to ask me?
Yes, can I ask, Ali?
Yeah.
My gari is very liquidy. Have
Yeah.
I been mean on the ginger?
So interesting. If only we were around my table, because then you could give them to Kashan. Well, I think what you could do, if it was me, Marina, I would include more ginger, because you get more for your money then, you know. Okay. So I would, yeah.
Okay, it's not like you need, I should have reduced the liquid more.
Yeah, and it's the ginger that have the benefits. So later on, just slice some more, put them in.
Okay.
That will give you a nice jar, and just push it down, put the lid on, stick it in the fridge.
Sorry, just a second question. I think you said it's okay to open the jars every day or every couple of days to push everything further down.
Yeah, with these ferments.
Yes.
I would do that. I would push them right down as far.
And it's okay to open it.
Yeah,
every day or a couple of days.
we have to. Yeah, we're going to have to do that.
Okay.
We want to make sure it's underneath. And just one other point on equipment to use, always try and make sure that it's as clean as possible, and we don't want any bacteria in jars that would, that might cause it to go moldy. If you see any mold on your ferments, most likely it's turned, so you could taste it and see, but you might need to discard it. I've never had a problem personally, but just keep to pushing it underneath, keep your jars and stuff clean, and you shouldn't have any issues. And don't double dip. Spoon. Good. Okay, so folks, I just want to do one last thing with you, and I'd really like to know, we've gone through a lot today, and I've shown you not just how you make some fermented food, but also the why. And I really would like you to be inspired and motivated going away from this workshop to then include these in your menu on a regular basis. But I'd love for you to have an opportunity to have a discussion with somebody else to do this. So I am going to attempt to break you all up into breakout rooms and see whether or not this works. I don't know. We will find out. Let me see if I can assign you. Let's do 4 rooms maybe. So I'm going to put you into a breakout room, and I am going to, so we'll put Anita and Marina. You guys are going to be in a room. And let's see, room 2, let's assign. We're going to do, and that's Sam Page. So we'll do Sam, who's SV? Sam and Adam together. Okay, and then let's see in room 3, who can we have here? So we've got Kashan, and we're going to have Vanessa and Marion. Brilliant. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to see if this works, folks, but I would really like you, in your pair or in your 3, what are you going to take away from this workshop? And this is just literally 5 minutes, and then I'll close the rooms down. You come back into the session. Okay, so let's see if this works. Great. So all participants have gone into their rooms. So that's really awesome. I'm really glad that's worked. Hey Adam, you're back. Sam, hey guys, hey. Great. Perfect. Just waiting for the others to come back from their breakout rooms. Hey Marion, hey Vanessa.
Ali.
Hey,
You check us out, darling.
it's horrible, isn't it? It's like your body is being sucked out, like it's like something from Harry Potter.
Well, no, we were talking to Kesha and suddenly it check us out.
I'm ever so sorry. It is very much like that. You just literally get sucked out of your body and into the unknown, back to me.
The others back yet?
It looks like everybody else is back. Just hopefully Kashan can join us in a second. So, folks, just very quickly then, I'm just going to pull up my PowerPoint again, and then we're going to close up today, and I will leave you to the rest of your amazing Sunday afternoon.
I'm going to make some falafels.
Oh, that sounds delicious, Marion.
I have my chickpeas already soaked and ready to go.
Amazing. Great. Okay. So just a couple of points then to finish with. This is something that's quite interesting. It's this Bristol stool chart. And I just wanted to have share something with you. We've been working together for an hour and a half now. And that's that I've had some fantastic results from myself and also clients that I've worked with when we think about the consistency and the way that our poo should actually be really on this chart is around number 4. And I've got to say, when I had a sort of like a poor stomach a couple of years ago, I took mine from maybe a 7 or a 6 to what is now a 4 through eating probiotic food. And I've seen this as also with other clients. So I just wanted to leave that funny story with you there. And this was a study with 66 volunteers at the Bristol University, where they sort of like had people consistently report on their stools. It's quite funny. You might have seen it before. In terms of the resources that I'm going to give you, I'm going to send them to the Facebook group, so you can have your resources, where to find kefir grains, where to find kombucha, and also I'm going to send an evaluation form, which I would be very grateful, please, if you could fill that out, because it will help me and just to evaluate this course and to make sure that it's as best as it could be. So thank you all so very much for joining with me and today, and I really hope that you enjoy what you've made, because if you do, then you will absolutely be inspired to go forth and make more. And you can make these for gifts for people as well, you know, rather than buying them boxed chocolates. So like, give them a fermented food instead, because it will give them, 1, the pleasure of receiving your gift, but 2, it will help their microbes as well. So folks, if anybody's got any more questions or want to ask me about anything, then you can hang out at the end. But it's been absolutely brilliant, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Everybody's got
Thank you, Ali.
Very much,
Thank you,
Ali.
Ali.
Thanks, Ali.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Ali.
I'll see you all soon.
Yeah. No questions from me, Ali.
Bye, Ali.
Bye, you guys. Take care.
Bye.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye,
Bye,
Sam.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye, guys.